never turns on. So
it's Hoagie World.
Hey, when you gotta eat.
Yeah.
So this pre-show is going to have a little movie flavor to it as well, but not as much as yesterday. So here's the thing. I just interviewed one of the ladies from the All-American Girls Professional League, if you remember, a league of their own. And I've interviewed quite a few of them over the years. This one's name is Lois Youngin, and she's got a great career. You can read about it on Sportsology. I'm not going to go through everything, but one of my pet peeves in baseball life, Lois Youngin, and she's got a great career.
Sorry about that.
You can read about it on Sports. That's great. So one of my pet peeves in baseball life is that the great Jimmy Fox, who's in the Hall of Fame, still really one of the best home run hitters to ever play the game, doesn't have his number retired anywhere. And it's one of these situations where he's played a fair amount of years for the Athletics. I think it was 11. Then he played 8 for the Red Sox, and then he finished out with a couple other teams. You know, he was a dual MVP, I think, with the Philly Athletics, and then one-time MVP with the Red Sox. And nobody has retired Jimmy Fox's number. And so Lois played for Jimmy Fox. So I asked her about him, and she said, listen, this guy was great, and nowhere near what they portrayed him as, Jimmy Dugan, in a league of their own. Really, she said, if there's nothing else you could do for me, please get the word out about that. Like,
I'm really surprised that the Philadelphia / Kansas City / Oakland A's didn't retire his. I think his number was 4.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah, and then he went to the Red Sox.
And I would like to see it retired. I put this Q&A up on Twitter. If you guys could help me out in the audience and on the show retweet this. Like, this guy deserves it. I think he's been dead since 1959. And he owns 9 team records still. Like, he hasn't played since probably like 1940 something, right?
Yeah.
And he still holds 9 team records for all this time, and he doesn't have his number retired. If nothing else, the Oakland A's, please, come on. I mean, it's just like, do something for the guy. He is worthy of something.
He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest sluggers of all time. It should be
since 1967, unfortunately. And let's see when his last year was that he played.
I think his last year was in the
42. No, 45. 45. He came back after. So 1945 was his last year, and he still holds 9 team records. That tells you how great this guy is.
Yeah.
So anyhow, hopefully they can do something for him.
Yep.
We'll check out Sportsology and we'll check out the article.
Yeah, Lois was great. Like, she was even a track and field coach at the University of Oregon, which, if you know a lot about Oregon, you know, Oregon, the Nike brand started there. Steve Prefontaine was there, legendary runner. She didn't know him well, but she did talk about Prefontaine a little bit because she was the coach when he would still be there running. And if anybody hasn't seen that movie, I forget the name of the movie.
There's 2 movies.
Okay, but they're really good. He's a compelling guy to watch. He's dead too, but
yeah, actually, I mean, it's weird because there were 2 movies again made around the same time, like movie companies tend to do. There was a movie called Prefontaine with Jared Leto as Steve Prefontaine. And then there was a movie called, I think it was called Without Limits. And it was Billy Crudup, who was Steve Prefontaine. So it's like they made the same movie over and over. You know, like,
the story's compelling.
The story's phenomenal. And it's tragic too, because, you know, he died before he had a chance to run. I think it was in the '76 Olympics. So yeah. Can briefly here, and then we'll start the show. Can you please explain to me why Star Wars fans seem to hate The Last Jedi as much as they do? Because I was flipping through Twitter, and it just seems there's like a visceral hatred of the movie and how it deviated from the what they thought the plot was going to be.
Here's the root of what this is, and it's actually based in misogyny. There's a petition going around right now by a hardcore group of Star Wars fans to have the movie redone because they feel there is a level of demasculinity of the Star Wars characters and the film franchise. It is totally bonkers. This was the primary driver of some of this stuff, and it's got to do with a level of misogyny, unfortunately, and I have no problem saying that, within a certain collective of the fan base, not the whole fan base, but there's a group that feels the storylines have taken on a ulterior feminist motive to promote feminism, and they feel it needs to be stopped. That is where this is coming from.
This is so ridiculous.
It is. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, there's definitely a lot of different things I've heard about it, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I honestly,
I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been shorter. I mean, I thought there were some sections that which is hard to say for a Star Wars fan because you wanted to go on and on, but there were sections that dragged. Like I watched it again.
I think it needed about a half hour edited out in the middle, but the last act, it was
really good.
Kylo Ren versus Luke I thought that was pretty great.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, the whole thing that they're doing with the Kylo Ren character is an interesting one, and they really have done a good job with it.
He's the first guy that's really been split down the middle, where he's a bad guy, but he has good intentions at the same time. Yeah,
I mean, there was definitely some of that with Darth Vader as well, but not to this degree. And I mean, this is obviously this is a kid who was born of good parents,
The only thing good about Darth Vader was he wouldn't kill you on his birthday. Otherwise, there was nothing good about it.
He hated the grass. No, but I mean, if you watch the prequels, people are tough on the prequels too, honestly, and the prequels
people are tough on Yoda. Remember how much people loved Yoda? In the last year now, everybody hates Yoda, and it bothers the hell out of me.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to watch something funny though, like I'm a big Riff Tracks fan. I've told you this before. Mr. Science Riff Tracks. They do both The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. They have riff tracks of these on their app now that you can actually watch them and then play along with your iPhone with them talking.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest things, my hardest laugh of the entire year last year came in The Force Awakens. When they get to the end scene, everyone who's seen the end scene knows that it's not a spoiler anymore. That whatever. So there's a person standing there with a cloak, it's Luke Skywalker on this mountaintop. And he turns around and looks at Rey. Well, they turn him around, and as he's turning around, the guys from Riff Tracks start the voice of Jar Jar Binks, like I've been waiting for you so long, like that, which was like to me
that's great,
the funniest thing I've ever seen. The way they did it, just the timing of it all was just phenomenal because obviously it's Luke, but had that been Jar Jar there, can you imagine? The hatred of the Star Wars universe, if it was Jar Jar is the wrath of Jar Jar on Jar Jar is crazy. But if you actually ever read the books, like and we'll start into this, but the books, the next three were supposed to be totally different than this. The George Lucas had a vision for what episodes 7, 8, and 9 would be like.
Yeah,
and I think people would have hated them.
Well, I actually think that Star Wars took a page, and not by plot line, but took a page from Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones, apparently the last 2 seasons of it completely deviated from everything that the author of the books was the direction he was going in. So it sort of jumped past the books, and now it's going in its own direction. Because it's so successful, I think they used up all the books, and he hasn't even finished.
And it's different characters take on different when they're played by people. It takes on a different tone. So they did a great job. I mean, the whole thing between Rey and Kylo Ren is brilliant. It's a great thing.
Yeah, it is great. Look, at the end of the day, should they have started with something completely fresh? Probably, but they knew they could go to the well again, and who went to the well better than George Lucas? So they took something out of the Lucas playbook and decided for all that 7, 8, 9-year-olds, let's replay this the way we want to do it, and then you'll follow along. And that's.
I'll just say this: the last 2 movies, they were not as bad as the follow-ups to the original trilogy. The one with Liam Neeson and
that was a Jar Jar.
Here's what I want to say about those, and I don't know if Eck will agree or disagree. At the time they came out, we were so starved for Star Wars, and The special effects were so great. Nobody whined and bellyached about these movies like to this degree back then. They just didn't.
Yeah. It's retrospective analysis that like Hayden Christensen could be the worst actor in the face.
There's some. You can watch this. They are
the little Anakin kid was the worst actor that could ever be born. Like that's
Jake Lloyd.
He was horrible.
He is terrible.
There's a lot of bad actors in this. It was never for acting. The problem is so much of the effects overtook the idea, the mysticism of the story, and the idea that it was based around myth. And, no one had ever thought of the idea that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away is basically how we learned about history and we learned about myth.
Right.
And that's what captivated you right from the beginning, because it made it sound like this could actually have happened because it wasn't here. And that's it. And then all the historical and cultural references through the history of civilization that are incorporated in it. It just isn't done the same way anymore. And I think there's people who miss that too.
I still like Star Trek just as much.
Oh my God, you gotta throw it in, really?
No, that I don't do it. But I mean, you're right. I mean, the first three were the arc of like, then they say like the original prequels that they redid were the arc of like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ben Kenobi, right? That's what that was. And then the next three were the arc of Luke Skywalker, and the first six were the arc of Darth Vader. In a way, so they've done a good job at these arcs, and what they haven't done is taken another. They haven't continued anything except for you can't have the arc of like C-3PO, I guess, but that would be the only characters that have been. Now I'll tell you what's a really good movie, and we'll move on. If this people don't give enough credit to is Rogue One.
Rogue One was excellent. I agree.
Rogue One is a really good movie. It's not at all. I mean, it's totally a different Star Wars thing. I have not seen Han Solo yet, but Rogue One was really good.
I haven't seen the Solo one either. I probably will wait. I'm not in a rush for it.
But part of the reason Rogue One was cool is that they didn't have one of the problems they have when they make these movies is they have characters they have to serve, and then Rogue One they allowed it to be completely a new group of characters, and that's why Rogue One. But there's so many
fresh air. That was the reason.
And there are so many books, and there's all the Star Wars stuff is branched off in so many different directions and different. If you watch the cartoons, that are on the Star Wars cartoons, they're really good too. There's a lot of the Clone Wars cartoon is.
I didn't like it.
That's like the Batman. That's like the Batman cartoons. It's like
I can't watch the cartoons.
I'll sell you my copy for $5. Anybody who wants it.
One of the funniest things you'll ever see is the Lego Star Wars trilogy, which is really hilarious. That's
anyway. Lego Star Wars. Lego Batman was great. So I haven't seen Lego
Batman was amazing.
It was.
And the Lego movie was incredible. It's still like I told you, one of my favorite 5 movies of all time is the Lego movie. I mean that Lego Batman was made by
but that's okay.
No, Lego movie Godfather, Lego movie Pat.
I'm telling you, the Lego movie.
Like, so you know how embarrassing that would be for you, though? If you ever got invited, like, Entertainment Tonight or something, they're like, what are your top 5 movies? And you're naming, like, great movies, Oscar-worthy movies, and then, like, number 5 is the Lego movie. They would cut the...
I know, people laugh at it, but until you see it.
Number 6 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
You have to watch it to understand it.
He would go, like, number 4 would be Cool Hand Luke, and number 5 would be the Lego movie. Like, come on.
I'm telling you. No, I mean, I'm not into like, whatever. But I'm telling you, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. Understand. I am telling you, people out there, someone will back me up. It is a well-made movie. It's got an incredible plot. It's really funny. It's crazy funny. But it also has a message to it. It's really well done.
Bill C in the chat room says he says he works for Lego, used to work on Lego Star Wars. So there you go.
Okay. That's really funny too. The Lego Star Wars thing is really funny. Anyway.
Nobody is saying the Lego movie was good, though. Nobody's backing you up on that. Bill C did, but Bill C's...
You're biased. You work for Lego.
We don't count Bill C.
That's like saying I like Trump and you work in the Trump administration. Jeez.
None of you have seen it, right?
No.
All right, I challenge you all sometime this weekend to just watch the Lego movie. It's on Netflix, I think.
Yeah.
Watch it and tell me after it's done. It's not going to be one of your favorite movies of all time. Like it is for me.
Even Scott Murdoch's like, well, Lego movie made so much money. It's like, yeah, so do those Tyler Perry movies. It doesn't make them good.
The Lego movie is unbelievably well written. It is hilarious. I mean, it is so funny the way they.
So it's as well written as Dr. Zhivago or something like that?
It is.
Oh, come on.
Come on, let's start the
Please
show.
start this show.
I feel like I'm on an island all the time with you guys. Yesterday was McDavid and Matthews. Anyway, all right, here we go.
Here it is. You're not Ginger. You're not Marianne. You're Mrs. Howell. That's why.
Wow.
Hello, Hockey World. Is it only Tuesday?
No, it's
Wednesday.
Thank God. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, July 11th. Man, sorry. This is cracking up. Trying not to laugh. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, July 11th, 2018.
I'm the professor, Michael Agello.
I'm the long lost Peter Tessier.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I could be the oh God, who was Russell Johnson? What was he?
The professor. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, he was the professor. That's right. Yeah, because his name is
Skipper Russ Cohen.
When I worked at Borders Bookstore, I spent an entire day with Bob Denver of Gilligan.
Oh, you did? Wow, that's cool.
I spent an entire day with him as he signed his book that he had written, and I showed him around when I was working for Borders, and I went out to lunch with him, and he actually, and when he did his signing, he actually wore his hat. He wore his white hat.
He didn't take a smoke break?
No, he did. Yeah, he did.
He did. Of course he did.
Yeah, no. And I'm excellent. You're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And okay, today we have some news, and it spurs into my blog. And I wanted the conversation that I wanted to go and get into today is there is a trend going on now that I'm officially going to call it a trend of players going into their final years of their contract and then essentially demanding a trade to one place. Like this, and this is so. I'm going to go back to Marty St. Louis, and then you go after that. You go to Kevin Shattenkirk, who was traded to the Capitals, but everybody knew if he was going to get in any kind of extension, he had to sign. He had to be traded to the Rangers. They tried to trade him to the Rangers, they couldn't get it done. But the Rangers didn't want to do it because the Rangers weren't that big of a contender. I forget what it was.
Right.
But now from there you move on to these two guys that we're talking about today, a little bit. It's Tavares and now Pacioretty, who are both Carlson. But Tavares plays into this too.
Okay.
Because Tavares' signing of actually being the first guy who actually went out there and actually did go to free agency further enhances the power that these guys have, because now someone sees it can be done, right? And now that it can be done, now Carlson and Pacioretty, Carlson wants to go to Tampa, Pacioretty wants to go to Florida. They are essentially holding the reins, and it's interesting. I mean, it doesn't even matter. I wrote in the thing, our guys can be less likely to put in a no move contract. It really doesn't even matter if the guy wants to go somewhere.
Right.
He says, I'm only going to sign an extension with so and so.
Well,
then where are you?
And the solution for Montreal and Ottawa in these situations, I mean, I think your read is correct here that they seem to want to go to specific places. What Montreal and Ottawa have to do is say, basically, screw these guys and what they want. We're going to trade them where we want to trade them. There are no trade restrictions, and we're going to get what we can for them because we're not going to be held hostage. I mean, you got
to take a stand on this,
right?
You got to do it, and you got to do it almost to spite them. And Montreal should, because they're going to be a train wreck anyways.
Right.
So you might as well do it and get it done. And maybe you get less on it, but you go play a year in purgatory in Colorado or something like that and suck it up. And then when you're a free agent, you can sign wherever you want if that team wants you. Right? Like that's it. Like you play hardball. This is the reason, and it'll never happen, but this is the reason why you got to somehow work to this idea of no guarantee contracts. Just release them and say, go find your deal and be done with it.
This is, Philip pointed out that Ray Shero got interviewed by Julie Robenheimer today and said that they offered Maroon more money, but he wanted to go back home and be closer to his son. You can't fight that.
No.
And that does come up now more than it used to 5 years ago.
I mean, if you're going to play like a year, it's kind of ridiculous. I do agree. He took a lot less money to go there for sure. It was a really reasonable contract to go and play in St. Louis. Blues made out incredibly well. I mean, Blues, this kind of self-corrects the David Perron signing it maybe because they got both those players for basically $6 million a year. So that's not bad.
Sometimes it takes a little bit of luck, like a team's just in the right geographic location.
Yeah.
I mean, the Carlson and the Pacioretty situations are similar in the fact that there are teams outside of, say, this narrow window that they want to go to that are interested in them as rentals. I mean, Pacioretty, there are teams out there looking for wingers right now. I mean, San Jose possibly, Edmonton possibly. There are teams looking for scoring that would be interested in Pacioretty, who other than last year is basically a 30-goal scorer and may not have any interest in signing him past next year. So Marc Bergevin's got to work on that and get as much as he can, develop the market and get what he can for those guys, and basically say, Max, screw you. Go out and sign your 6-year deal on your time next July. We're going to get what we can for you.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, teams that Pacioretty has always had an interest in playing for the Rangers, right? Because he's from Connecticut and everything else. But that's not going to happen, or it doesn't seem likely, at least at this moment. Now, maybe a free agency that changes because they change direction. But right now, for a trade, based on that, I would think he'd want to be like with the Islanders or the Devils to at least be closer to home. And so, like, I would, and the Bruins too, obviously, because they're really close to Connecticut. I would think those would be the 3 teams you would really look at to try and make a move for him, knowing that it's probably, amenable to that.
Maybe Philadelphia, but I don't know if that fits either.
No,
I think it's more, it's more about his wife from Florida, and then they have a place in South Beach, and they want to be there. That's like, and but they can't be there yet. And the fact is, so Montreal comes out yesterday and makes it public in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
that they are not they're not going to extend him, which is another strange move by Montreal. Like, I've been trying to defend Montreal, but why do you go public with this? Why? What's the benefit of it? I always look to see when someone goes public with something like that, I look for the benefit in it, and I don't see the benefit.
I think the benefit is, Zach, is that they're coming over to what I'm talking about is that, it undercuts this potential for, if we trade him someplace, we get this big package and he signs the long-term extension. I think what they're saying now is that they're not going to sign him, and they're potentially going to move him as a rental, and you're going to get a good return as a rental. I mean, it's not going to be the optimum return. And the same thing for Carlson. I mean, honestly, I don't think Ottawa, if all things are being equal, wants to trade Erik Karlsson inside their own division, whether it be Montreal or Toronto or Boston or Tampa. I think they would prefer to trade him to the Western Conference and maybe prefer to trade him to, San Jose or Dallas or Colorado, because then they don't have to worry about that problem of him coming into their building 2 or 3 times a year. I'm convinced of that. But the thing is, if eventually he wants to sign with Tampa, there's nothing that stops him other than him signing an extension in Ottawa, and that's not going to happen. So you can only control what you can control, and that is trading him where you want to trade him. And then if that other team wants to do what Doug Wilson did with Hoffman, there's nothing you can do to stop that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything you can do in the CBA to fix this problem. I think this is not like a CBA fixable situation, because eventually, at some point, guys are going to be free agents. There's always going to be a year before they're a free agent. There's always going to be this good situation. I mean, the only thing I can see that could prevent this is allowing people to re-sign their players 2 years in advance, like to extend them further out. Like, and if you did that,
but don't you think that with the stuff that has gone on in Ottawa regarding Karlsson, regarding his clashes with ownership, with the internal strife, that even if they had signed him to the 8-year extension, he would be asking to get the hell out? I think he would.
Yeah, in Karlsson's situation, I agree with you.
So, I mean, I don't think the ability to extend somebody at almost any time in their deal, if you want to do that, I mean, it
might help Pacioretty. I mean, because then a team can pick a point, and a player can pick a point at which they're most valuable or least valuable, or want to get something done. And I never really quite understood the idea that you couldn't extend somebody until the end of the contract. Like, I really don't know who fought for that. Like, was that fought for by the players or?
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because who is it benefit, Peter? I mean, who do you think benefits this rule?
Sorry, with the 2-year thing?
No, with
But
the
yeah,
one with the one with the 1 year,
really-
the ability to extend that 1 year before.
and not just any time.
I don't know if it benefits any. I think it's sort of an equal thing. I was really intrigued by the 2-year thing that you mentioned, because simply put, if you're a player, you'd have to be betting pretty heavily that your team knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
And if you're Otto, imagine if Erik Karlsson extended last year and then all this stuff started happening and you're like, right now, the player still holds the wild card in that they can say, trade me right now and get me out of here. And they can do it quietly, or they can do whatever they want, even if they have a no movement clause, no trade clause. So they still have that. It's still a little more difficult for the team to get out of it. But, 1 year, I think it's fine. I don't think it really benefits anyone either way.
Well, what? The only thing I can think of, Peter, is if you're a player and let's say you're not 35, but you're like 34, you might retire. You've been with the team for a long time. So you extend for that year and then you just walk off into the sunset. Maybe for that, that's the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was negotiated this way. Like, I'm trying to think in other sports, is it any different? Can they?
Because look, if you play from the age of 18 and you're 34, you've played 15, 16 years, you might have had enough. And that is a way for a guy to not have to, worry about it.
Wasn't there a point at which you could just rip up a contract and sign a new one if you both agreed on it?
Well, the NHL could, and then you could hide it in your desk and not report it to the league.
But I remember that. That was obvious. There were so many cases of that went on back then, where players would lie about their contracts.
Right.
They would say you can get paid higher. Like one particular player, you can't get hired. No one should get paid more than him, and he only makes this much, even though he made a lot more. That happened a lot before the days of salary caps being open. But I wonder who negotiated this 1 year thing. Like, I'm wondering who got that as part of their trade off of something, because it feels like that.
Well, from my memory, it was it operated prior to the most recent CBA, so it's been around for
a while that I can remember too. But I think that there was I could have sworn there was a point at which you could just anytime extend someone. Like, you could just go to them and say, okay, we really like you. We're gonna break up. We're gonna extend you for 5 years. This is your new contract that'll start next year for 5 more years. That kind of thing. I remember that being done years ago.
Well, the factor of guaranteed contracts comes into focus with this kind of maneuvering, because in the NFL, a player can extend his contract 1 year at any time and move the money around to help the team out with their cap situation. In the NHL, you really can't, like, if it's an existing contract, the only way out of it is a retirement or a buyout or termination. So once it's signed, it's stuck there forever.
And that is a problem, because there are players, and I know this for a fact, and teams who have argued that if both sides want to end a contract, they should be allowed to just end it. Like, if there's a contract that makes a player say untradeable, or he's going to be sent to the minors because he can't be, if it comes down to that, and then the player could play someplace else, but he can't because he got this contract.
So that wasn't that the Wade Redden thing?
Yeah, that was the Wade Redden thing.
Yeah.
Wade
But,
Redden
this is the problem with the NHL, in that it doesn't really forward think about how general managers and agents are going to work around things. And they keep finding these things, and then they have to make it up on the go. For instance, how did, the Mike Richards thing with LA? I mean, it's this constant making it up and not locking down. And basically, there's always a way around something, or it really is. It's sort of frustrating, because LA should literally have been completely unable to manage to sign Ilya Kovalchuk based on Richards, right?
Well,
and all these things, but yet there's always these screwy little things the NHL does to get around things.
Well, the Kovalchuk thing in New Jersey, Peter, Shipachyov with Vegas. It is possible to terminate a contract and sort of wipe the slate clean. And
the player has to do something terrible. Something has to happen legally.
Yeah.
Well, no. Kovalchuk, all he wanted to do was go. He was retiring and he was going back to the KHL. And
but even then, that wasn't a clean thing, because if he came back at any point, like, I'm talking about, like, something you can end a contract. You're a free agent now. Go sign where you want to go.
Well, yeah. I mean, not even with the Voyanov situation is that the case, because his contract was terminated, but LA still owns his rights. So like if that ever goes forward where a team is interested, they're still going to have to make a trade with LA to get him. But no, but there are ways to. I mean, the penalty on the cap for Vegas on Shipachyov, I believe it's less than it's insignificant. It's maybe a couple $100,000. I'm checking as we're going here, but it's nothing of major consequence. And they have tons of cap space anyway. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get out of deals.
A really interesting thing was posted on Reddit today. So this is an article that comes back to June 21st, 2008. Okay, right, and it's an article by Don Brennan. And I'm going to read it to you, okay? As far as making a splash, Brian Murray taught this, because this is right after the draft, okay? So as far as making a splash, Brian Murray tossed a pebble into the lake that was around one of the NHL draft last night. Not to be outdone by his wheeling and dealing counterparts, the Senators GM traded up 3 steps so he could take ... Erik Karlsson, question mark. Nice way to show your thanks to the fans for their support, said Brian Samuel, a regular ticket buying customer at Scotiabank who was sitting in level 2 wearing a Senators jersey and surrounded by his buddies in the Leafs and Blackhawks colors. That's a garbage pick. They could have had him in the 2nd round.
Oh, come on. You're expecting
an expert.
Yeah, like you're expecting expert analysis from some dweeb from Canada who's a season ticket holder. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but it's but here's but Brennan's like Murray says, I like big strong guys. Noting Karlsson had some work to do in the gym, but I also like his high end skill level. And then Brennan goes on and says Karlsson won't play in the NHL for quite a few more years if he ever does. Real tough to get excited about him now. That's Don Brennan.
Okay, what's the point?
The point is this, and I'm not trying to rip on Don Brennan. I'm just saying the point is that it is so hard to predict these things.
No, it's not. Hold on. I could give you, and has nothing to do with me because a lot of people saw this. I could give you an article that I wrote about Erik Karlsson after watching him in the World Juniors and see that he could run a professional power play right now.
All right. Well, yeah. So
a lot of people felt that way. It wasn't just me.
No, I know he was picked. I mean, he was going to be a 1st or 2nd rounder, right? I mean, no matter how you sliced it. So they traded up to get him a little bit, but then Brennan goes on and says, he may never play. He doesn't, may never play in the NHL.
Well, heck, I'm not here to rip on. I'm not going to rip on Don Brennan. I mean, but not every reporter knows the ins and outs of the draft. They discover what these players are based on what they see at development camps and rookie camps and during the So Erik Karlsson, was, I mean, what was he picked? 17th overall that draft? How many defensemen were picked ahead of him? Does that mean that every general manager in the NHL who drafted a defenseman before Erik Karlsson is a complete and utter moron? No. Here's
just so you know, in 08 in the under 18s, Karlsson had 7 assists in 6 games for the under 18 team.
Right.
Then the next year when he played in the World Juniors, and that's when I started noticing him, he had 9 points in 6 games. If you want to say that he was never going to be an NHLer and then you didn't watch the World Juniors, that's my criticism of you.
Erik Karlsson was picked 15th in that draft. 15th.
Right.
2nd overall was Drew Doughty. 3rd overall was Zach Bogosian.
Right.
4th was Alex Pietrangelo. 5th was Luke Shen.
The crazy defenseman draft.
12th was Tyler Myers, and 13th was Colton Tubert.
Yeah, Tubert was the one that really didn't do anything. Bogosian got
Coburn in that 1st round too. I thought Braden Coburn was in that 1st round too, or something. I don't know if I'm wrong.
John Carlson was 27th.
Wow.
Michael Delzato 20th. Lucas Spiza 19th.
This might have been the best 1st round ever for defensemen.
Jake Gardner 17th.
It's a good one, and I I wrote that when the Flyers traded their pick, I said they could have had John Carlson, and I thought it would either be Carlson or it would be Markstrom, the goalie. And I said, that's who you basically gave up. And I was like, wow, that's, you know.
I'll let me just extend it to the second round. 32nd overall, Slava Voinov. 38th overall, Roman Josi. 43rd overall, Justin Schultz. 53rd overall, Travis Hamonic. 55th overall, Marco Scandella. So a lot of NHL defensemen in the top 60 of the draft.
Michael Stone was 69.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a crazy draft. You know, think about it.
It's a great draft. It is. And
especially for defensemen. Holy cow.
And look, and Roman Josi did not have a lot of buzz. I mean, so you're going to kill teams for that?
Well, look at this. TJ Brody, 114th.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I guess I'm coming to the defense of Don Brennan and for all the beat reporters.
I can't do that.
Well, no, I will because honestly, it's like, I mean, you can study up. I mean,
I think, Mike, the point with some of this though too is not that someone made a mistake of taking so and so before Carlson. It's what are you missing on these other guys way down there? Like Spurgeon is like 160th or something.
Right.
I mean, it's like, what are some guys seeing and finding value at? You know, Jason Demers, he was 186th.
I mean, Russ, was Mike Fuda in Los Angeles in 2008? Was it too early for him to be there? Or
I believe he was there.
Okay, so I mean, he deserves plaudits for Drew Doughty second overall because, I mean, not to say that Doughty wasn't ahead of Bogosian and Pietrangelo, but all that triumvirate, that trio, it was like flipping flopping who was going to be number 2, who was going to be number 3.
Well, but because there was that thought that, well, Drew Doughty's fat. And I heard it when I got there. The minute I got to the draft, people were like, how could you have Drew Doughty so high? He's fat and he may never be that great. And I'm like, you could fix fat. Like that's something where even if you were going to call Sean Day fat a couple of years ago, Sean Day is no longer fat. Drew Doughty just didn't know how to eat the right way.
Russ, I've been trying to fix fat for 20 years.
40 for me.
You're not an elite athlete though.
But what I'm saying is Fuda deserves all the credit for Drew Doughty at number 2, but then he deserves to get slagged for Colton Tubert at number 13.
Right. And I've talked to him about Tubert. I mean, that's one where, hey, you know what? Everything was there. Yeah, Fuda's been there since 2007. Everything was there for this guy to be successful. It's not always about the team being wrong. Sometimes it's about the prospect not getting better or just not putting in the work too.
Right. Honestly, the Luke Shen, after year 1, and I'm just basing this on year 1, he was probably second to Doughty in terms of performance. He had a great rookie year. Pietrangelo was still in the OHL. I think Bogosian broke in with Atlanta, but he didn't play well his first year. But then Shen never improved after that rookie year or got misused or, you know, we know he got played too much too early by Toronto. So, I mean, yeah, you can have a read on somebody. You can say, well, he's not ready or he's not this or he's not that. But it takes 4 or 5 years to really evaluate what a player is going to be. So,
hey, we're going to give a shout out to Colton Tubert because for 3 consecutive years in the DEL, he had 100 PIMs or more every year. So.
There you go.
And that was not that long ago. It was 2013 through 2016.
All right, so 2 hours ago, interesting thing gets posted on Twitter. The Donald Fear, okay, who we know is nothing to fear but fear himself, Donald Fear. Speaking at the NHLPA Golf Classic today,
right.
Was asked about the legalization of marijuana and says that they've had a lot of discussions internally about the legalization in Canada. Would require bargaining with the NHL, but says it could come to an informal understanding with the league about use. All right, so this is interesting, I think, because can the NHL tell players who live or play in Canada that they can't smoke pot?
Yes, because
you can. You can have it in collective bargaining. If you feel it can affect your performance, you can have it in collective bargaining. What you cannot do, and they already have it, it's already there, is you cannot do a random drug test without the collective bargaining consent. There's already been a case in New Brunswick that was settled with the union that wanted the union appealed it because the employer wanted to do it for drug testing, and it wasn't in a collective bargaining agreement. So you can have it specifically in your employee contract when you're hired. It's in the collective bargaining agreement. It's a null and void issue. It's dealt with.
Obviously, they're going to have to work it out.
Federal,
Go ahead,
federal employees in Colorado can't smoke pot.
Yeah. But okay, I mean, a little bit, you know, I mean, we let players drink, right? We let players drink, no problem.
Yeah, but alcohol is not illegal,
right?
Yeah, but neither is marijuana in Canada. That's what we're saying. So.
Well,
no, but it's a little different. It's a little different.
No. The point being is that it's already, because it's becoming legal. So in the next CBA, you open it up. But in this one, it still exists.
And look, the NBA does not test for it, and we all know why.
I mean, the NFL doesn't give special dispensation to players who play in Washington State or Colorado because of marijuana. They have strict marijuana laws in the NFL, and
Ohio's legal now too.
No, I don't.
Massachusetts.
Now, if they want to do this, look, if they say in the NHL in the next collective bargaining agreement, hey, you can't recreationally smoke pot, but you could use CBD oil to recover from injuries and or different things that you've had go on in your career, I'm fine with that. That should be absolutely.
I know an ex-hockey player from the junior in the 70s. He was with the Blues for a little bit, moved on, and then he kind of decided he'd get an education and just didn't want to do the grind. He has incredibly bad hips, and a friend of his introduced him to CBD oil for pain management, and he says it's a lifesaver. He goes, I don't literally have pain.
Oh, there are.
And he goes,
I know a couple
and there's probably a lot of reasons to look into this, but again, it's got to be negotiated.
Look, we could have Riley Cote on the show. He'll talk all about it. Like he's an expert on it.
I have a friend who has chronic migraine headaches, and uses the gummies or the chocolate covered blueberries or whatever the hell for her headaches, and it's necessary. She can't work.
What is wrong with pot? I mean, I don't smoke it. I admit that I've never tried it. But at the same time, I don't see anything wrong with it because it's not a performance enhancing drug by any stretch of the imagination, right? It's not going to make you play better. So why do we care?
I'll tell you what it is, and it's probably an antiquated reason. But again, when you're signed onto a contract and you've got a morals clause and you're representing that team, look, you could get a little silly if you're just recreationally smoking pot, and teams have a right to say, look, we don't want our guys looking bad in public.
But how is that any different than alcohol? I don't understand. How is that any different than a player getting drunk? And
it's not.
You can have it with alcohol. You could negotiate that if you wanted to.
I mean, but alcohol's never been a controlled substance. That's the only difference.
Except for the 30s or whatever it was.
Use the example of Marcel Darius, the former Bills defensive lineman who they traded to Jacksonville last year. I believe he had 2 offenses in the NFL for marijuana. I mean, was busted. I think he was driving and was busted for impaired driving while he was getting high. It didn't seem to matter to him that there was strict laws against it in the NFL. He was going to do what he was going to do.
Right.
Now,
I mean, to me, this is something that players should have at their disposal for injuries and stuff like that.
Here's the problem, Eck. This is where it's going to come in. In Canada, it's legal. So they negotiate the ability to use marijuana in the CBA where it won't be drug tested.
Right.
Now they come in. So now you're on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you're flying down to New York for a game, and you go through customs, and you've come out and said publicly in an interview, I'm using cannabis for this. You get asked at the border, are you a cannabis user? And you say no, and you caught, and then they pull out this article that says, hi, the calamity that it will happen because of the border will be massive.
Yes.
It will be, it could radically change everything. And it's pretty brutal right now. And that's something people have to think about.
Well, there's a big problem in the United States, and this is a big political issue, a huge political issue about like the federal government having certain laws and the state governments having certain laws, and that is a big problem that's going on. And that the previous administration tried to fixed, and this administration has sort of went the other way on. So, but you know, that there's, you know, obviously you have a situation where it's legal in Colorado. I mean, I ran into a lot of people when we were skiing in Colorado a couple winters ago that were high as could be, and some of them were working at their jobs, you know. So, and it was in a way I was like, well, you know, it's kind of like if you saw a guy drunk at his job, you wouldn't be okay with that. So to me, it was
no.
Right. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it felt like
look, you know, as a person who used to have a business and I employed people here, if I had people coming in drunk at work, I'd be concerned. If I had people coming in high on prescription medicine that they may have, I'd be concerned. Right. I'd be concerned if people came in under the influence with marijuana, I'd be concerned. But the fact that it's legal in Canada, or will be on October 17th, and people like travel and say it becomes negotiated, it's not in the United States, not everywhere. And here's the thing, if you drive down from Vancouver to go to Washington State and they ask you, oh, are you going to use marijuana while you're down here? Yeah, I think about it. Boom, you're out. You're not even, you turn around, go in, you're done. Right. It's over, because they're not state officials.
Right. Yeah. So that, I mean, I guess we could play it out a couple different ways. If at some point, and I do think this is happening, if not now, 10 years from now or whatever, where it's legalized in both countries completely and everything's fine, because that's the direction I think it's heading. Then this could change, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, if the biggest issue is you're talking about is crossing over between the U.S. and Canada.
Okay, but think about this. We're in the summer concert season. If they really wanted to have a crackdown, if those buses were really searched, do you not think they would find a plethora of marijuana on these buses, these tour buses? Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Where? Going back and forth between the countries?
Yeah.
But I don't think so, Russ, because one,
oh my God.
Now, there's actually,
I don't think they need to take marijuana across the border now because it's so prevalent. So let me give you an example. We just had a huge folk festival here. It's one of the biggest festivals in Canada. We had a lot of U.S. artists come up. Sheryl Crow was here. So Sheryl Crow played Sunday night. She comes up. I have no idea if Sheryl Crow uses marijuana or not. She comes up. She can get marijuana here. That's not a problem. Okay. And her manager could have told the promoter, hey, make sure there's 5 joints for the band before they go on stage. It's going to be there. So Sheryl Crow doesn't have to come up from North Dakota and stop. And if she did on her tour bus, she goes and, like, her manager drops it off and they pick it up on the way back at a locker or something like that. There's too much at stake right now with the way the country.
That happens a lot.
Out. No, I'm pretty sure that at times there's stuff on the bus, and if they really wanted to, they could find it.
Yeah, this sounds like Paul McCartnney in Japan back in the 70s.
Yeah, I have good friends who tour around and you know, with bands in tour buses and stuff like that, and they say it is always taken off before you get to the border. It's always it is something they especially now that you can get it in Canada, they're not going to bring it into Canada, and you can get it down here. So you're not going to bring it. The border is just, you just stay. Everything has to be gone, and if you're caught with it, you're off the tour. It's a big rule.
The concern is though, like at the border, like around and like say in Buffalo at the Peace Bridge, they have, you know, you go through a scanning thing with your enhanced license. There's also an aspect of this, and I don't know if they've implemented it yet or if it's going to be, where like in the airports, they will take basically a sniff of the air, and if they pick any like GHB or anything like that, they will pull you over, and then they will, you know, it's.
Okay, here's 2 examples that I found in 12 seconds. Melissa Etheridge got arrested with a marijuana vape pen at the border, and Justin Bieber got in trouble with pot at the border in 2013. Like, it happens. It could happen every day. I guess.
Bieber got arrested for bad music.
But which way are they going, Russ? In or out?
Bieber got arrested. Well, it did say busted. Okay, yeah.
In or out?
They're probably going
into the U.S. or going out?
Into the U.S. probably.
U.S. border agents for Bieber, and Canadian border agents for Melissa Etheridge.
But that wouldn't happen now because
Melissa Etheridge was 2017.
No, but it wouldn't happen now because it's legalized.
But then, within the last couple months here.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you'll see more about this.
Okay, Peter had to leave right at 2 o'clock.
I got one more thing for you guys here. Getting away from this discussion, but I do think it's something we're going to hear more about. So I wanted to bring it up now at least. But on this day in 2001, a big trade went down.
Okay. Between who and who?
This was
Or does that give it away?
It does give it away, but I want to say
Give us division.
the Capitals and the Penguins were involved. Capitals and Penguins made a big trade in 2001.
Capitals and Penguins. Yager?
Yep, this is when Yager was traded to the Penguins, to the Capitals from the Penguins, and it's funny in retrospect now with like these teams being. Imagine that, like it's like the equivalent of like trading an elderly Crosby to the Capitals. But who were the players that went back? The three prospects that went back to Pittsburgh in this trade.
What year was it?
2001.
So they were actually drafted. It wasn't like they were draft picks. Okay.
Right. He was a 5-time Yager, a 5-time NHL scoring champion, was traded
to
the Capitals for 3 prospects.
Mm.
And what's interesting about this is that none of them. I mean, one of them played in the NHL, but none of them made an impact in the NHL.
Yeah, I remember the one because I remember he was he played for Pittsburgh for a couple years, I think, and
there is one who played for Pittsburgh for a couple years. You're right.
I can't remember who it is though. I can't. Go ahead.
That would be the one you're thinking of is I'll give you the other 2 first. So the one you're thinking of is Chris Beach.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Chris Beach. Yeah. He had injuries. I think that was the biggest problem with Chris Beach.
The other 2 were Mikhail Civek.
Yeah, Civic, yeah.
And Russ Lupashuk.
Him, I don't remember.
Russ Lupashuk. I don't remember him either.
Yep.
That's what was traded. And he went on to the Capitals and had an okay career in the Caps. Not a good one, really, for the Yager. I mean, it ended very, very
well. No, it was.
When you say a team, hey, had a big haul, that, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that was an interesting time for them to make a trade. And the Buffalo Sabres have added Steve Smith to the club's existing coaching staff as an assistant coach. Steve Smith, most known for. No, but it's like he's the Bill Buckner of hockey. And I still to this day feel like it was Fuhr's fault. I'm one of the few people who think that Steve Smith goal was Grant Fuhr's fault. The one that. Because Fuhr as a goalie should have been on his post. He was off his post. Puck's behind the net. You're told to be on your post. He was off his post. So the pass comes through, hits him. And it's amazing that Fuhr doesn't get any credit for like the fact that he caused that goal to happen.
That's interesting, yeah.
And it became a Steve. And still to this day, when you play open hockey, when you play anywhere and you scored your own goal, it's like, oh, you did a Steve Smith. Still to this day, it's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, think about it.
I like that.
Kids who don't even know. Like I remember, one kid said to me one time, it was like just a year or a half ago, I was playing open hockey, and he said, "Oh, that's a Steve Smith goal." I'm like, would you know what that is? I looked right at him because he's like a young kid. He's like, "No, I just know it's the call of Steve Smith goal when you score on yourself." And I'm like, well,
it's the reaction in Edmonton is preferable to Steve Smith, and I think it was in Game 7, correct? Against Calgary.
Late in Game 7, yeah.
Yeah. It's preferable to the reaction of the Colombian fans when a Colombian player put in the ball in his own goal against the U.S. in a World Cup. I think it was in 94 or 98. It was like in the 90s. They flew back to Bogota, and he was killed. So the reaction is much preferable for Steve Smith than this guy.
Okay. Yeah, can't say no to that. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
That's uplifting, isn't it?
I mean, you have a way of doing that, Mike. You do.
And finally, before we get out of here today, the Bruins have announced that a 2018-19 season there will be a Bruins idol to replace Rene Rancourt there to sing the national anthem. So they're going to do like a little show.
Why are they doing this?
Rene Rancourt, who's done such a great job for a long time, I guess is retiring after this season. So
no, he's done.
He's done altogether.
Yeah, the game, the Tampa series.
The playoffs, right?
Yeah, I thought he was going one more year. Okay.
No. Unless he changed his mind. It was supposedly over this year.
And I do want to say before we lose
his choice to be over, or did they sort of push him out?
Well, I'm not sure. I know he's a Bruins legend, and it's tough to deal with the gleam of that 2011 Stanley Cup ring that he wears when they show the spotlight on him during every game.
Yeah,
I think it would have to have been his choice. We would have heard about it.
It seems like it is. I'm looking at it. It does seem like it is. So that's good.
Of course, he's most famous for like pulling out the towel at the end of his thing, and
yeah,
that's I think
he's most famous for the pumps.
Over the fist pumps.
Yeah,
Okay,
the fist pump is a big deal.
Yeah, I can just see Lauren Hart doing that in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
That's not going to happen, Mike. You know that.
No. She's too classy.
All right. Keep an eye on the Edmonton Oilers. I've been told. Again, I wish I knew more about this, but I just keep hearing that they're up to something. I don't know what, and I've been chasing like crazy, calling everybody I know in Edmonton, and my sources will confirm this. I've been calling everybody I know in Edmonton, trying to get to the bottom of what it is they're doing. But
they're all at the mall. That's what it is.
Everybody says they're up to something. Actually, they're trying. I don't know if this is Lucic.
They're bringing Yari Curry back.
No, I can see it being Lucic. I mean, I think there's been enough discussion about Lucic that there's something there.
Yeah,
Russ.
Lucic and his agents keep saying that there is absolutely nothing there.
Wasn't there some indication that the Rangers might be involved?
That was just one.
Yeah, that was one. I did think that there was everything's been a dead end that I've chased. I did chase that. I mean, everything's been. The only thing I do know for a fact is that they made a very good offer to Ottawa and for Karlsson, but Karlsson still has them on the no fly list or whatever. So they have to at this point, that's a no.
And we should note once again, yesterday this coming off of WFAN and Evan Roberts just just having a tirade like saying that I don't know John Tavares must have secretly hated the Islanders it's. And they tweeted this out, and it's getting embarrassing there.
Well, here and okay.
I'm Long Island.
Do I understand the irrationality of a fan base based on a player not allowing the team to get the most from that player, even when he's wanting to leave that organization? Yes, because in 2008. Matt Sundin didn't waive the no-trade clause and did not allow the Leafs to trade him when they could have gotten significant assets from, I believe it was Montreal. And then as a UFA, he sat out half a season. They traded his rights to Montreal in the summer. He wouldn't sign with them. He sat out half a season and then went to Vancouver. And there's a lot of Leaf fans who will never forgive Matt Sundin for that. Fast forward to this summer. There are people who believe that it was some sort of conspiracy that John Tavares wouldn't waive the no-trade clause last July to allow the Islanders to move him because he asked to stay, probably thinking that they would straighten things out. They would get the building thing straightened out. He could sign an 8-year deal. But that team, their ownership, their management is such a cluster, and it was until Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz came on board, that I don't think he had much of an option other than to leave that organization. So Islanders fans, don't face your ire at the Toronto Maple Leafs or John Tavares. Turn your ire on your own organization. It's their fault.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. You don't disagree. You really can't. It's not Tavares's responsibility to
hold on. Stop the presses. Here we go.
Well, okay, let me just say this. I can tell you, because I was standing 5 feet away from John Tavares when he was talking at the press conference and in a media scrum after the press conference on July 1st. He was pained by the fact that he had to leave Long Island. He was very happy to come to Toronto, but he was very careful at saying, he wasn't doing a victory lap that he was signed with the Leafs. He was pained that he had to leave Long Island. I don't think he wanted to, but he recognized where that organization was going, and it was going nowhere.
All right, so here's a couple quickie things. So the Leafs have actually hired Ricky Olczyk and Blair McKasey as pro scouts. That just happened.
Now, McKasey was in Minnesota for about a dozen years, apparently.
And Olczyk was a former AGM for the Oilers.
And most recently, he was an AGM in Carolina for Ron Francis. So that connection between Carolina and the Leafs keeps growing.
That was very controversial because of his connection with obviously Eddie Olczyk, who was with Blackhawks, who we talk to all the time, and apparently there were some people that I heard Dundon was not happy about the trades that the Blackhawks made with Carolina and blamed Olczyk for a lot of that.
So here's the other thing. So on NHL.com, they tweeted out the Tampa Bay Lightning still have the potential to add another big contract, says GM Steve Yzerman.
Yep. No, they've been saying this, and I talked to somebody last night. I wrote about it today.
So clearly, whether it's on the 1-year basis or going forward, he's not shutting the door on it yet.
They're definitely not. I think they still think they're going to get him in Tampa. I do. I talked to somebody about it last night, and
but all things being equal, if it's now a rental deal, if it's a 1-year deal. No, not for Tampa. For Tampa, there's the potential of the extension, but if it's a rental deal, if it's a 1-year deal, I think Ottawa still wants to trade him outside of the conference and doesn't want to trade him inside the division.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It depends what they're getting. Depends how much they're getting. I think is what it comes down to. I think they're getting a lot in this deal, from what I've heard. So it might be worth it for them to go to the division. Anyway. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm sure we'll hear more of this then. But yeah, there's no question. I heard that that Tampa's fine for this year. Next year, Johnson and Callahan would come off, and they would be okay with the extension. So
no, Callahan's got another year.
No, I know they're not. I know they have to officially keep going, but that they would figure out a way to move them.
So. Well, one final thing, and that it does back what you were saying yesterday, because it's specified in the contract. Kucherov has a no move. The no move kicks in July of 2020.
Okay.
So he's got 1 year on the new deal. Now he's got 1 year left on the bridge deal. The new deal kicks in 2019. He's got 1 year on the new deal where the no move is not in place. So it would allow them to trade him if that is the plan.
It's not surprising.
All right. Hey, there's one question because Mike Doyle's golfing tomorrow and he wants to ask it. Do we think he's asking it to me, but we'll all answer it. Do we think that since the Pens have 5 centers, they'll move Brassard to Malkin's left wing? I don't know if it'll be Brassard that moves, but somebody will move to wing.
Yeah, Brassard is not a winger. He's always been a center.
Yeah, but somebody
they like the three centers of Crosby.
Matt Cullen could be the winger. I mean, that can happen.
Or a fourth line center. Either way. I mean, I think they like the Crosby, Malkin, Brassard 3 center thing.
I think they do too. Yeah.
That's enormous. That's why they got Brassard is to have that third center.
Exactly.
But all right, well, thanks, guys. Thanks for the questions. We appreciate it. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.